Hello and welcome to Earthing Live. We will be starting in just a few minutes, so please stay tuned and we'll be right back with you. Thank you all for joining us for this session of Earthing Live. Please stay tuned and we'll be with you in just a few minutes. Welcome everyone and thank you for joining us for another session of Earthing Live. This is just a quick reminder before we do begin that the information contained within this video and on our website is not intended to be taken as medical advice. And if you do have any medical questions, please direct those to your medical professional. Hello, everyone. My name is Charlie Frank, and I will be your host for the next hour as we speak with Clint Ober. If you do have any general customer service questions, such as tracking your order or how to place an order, you can reach our fantastic customer service team at help@earthing.com. I would now like to introduce Mr. Clint Ober, our founder and CEO. After actually about 25 years ago, he discovered that grounding the human body can improve how we feel, and he's continuously worked to improve all of our products and further the research of earthing, and made it his life's mission to educate as many people about the benefits of grounding. Welcome, Clint.
Thanks, Charlie. Glad to be here, as usual.
Absolutely. All right, we say we dive right in. So we do have our first question. is coming in right here on Zoom from our friend Rodney. And Rodney is letting us know that he had rigged up a grounding wire for indoor potted plants who no longer had connection to Mother Earth, and that they are enjoying having that connection back to the Earth. I'll just, I guess, to elaborate at that on a little further, do we have any information just as far as grounding plants and the efficacy of that and the benefits it can bring?
Yeah, if you go to the earthinginstitute.net, there's a study in there called the Plant Study, where we, down at the University of Arizona in Tucson, we took sunflowers and had some grounded, some ungrounded, and grew them from seed over a period of a few weeks and months. And had, it shows the dramatic difference in the plants that are grounded versus the ones that aren't grounded. But what got all that started is, I don't know, 20 years, long time ago. Just did an experiment, took two sunflowers, went to the store, bought a bundle, took two of them, put them in a, vases. One was grounded, one had a grounded wire in it and one didn't, and then just watched them. So I've got it on my computer. It's too bad I can't pull it up, but over a period of 7 days, the sunflower on, the ungrounded one, it just kept falling over and falling over and falling. And then it finally went, dropped and turned brown, where the one that was grounded stayed, healthy and lively for, another week or so. And so anyhow, then just for fun, we took the school districts up in the high desert here north of LA. And we went and got potted plants and had one grounded and one not grounded, and then let them grow different plants, and they could see the difference. And some of them were just huge, the ones that were grounded versus the ones that were ungrounded, and many of the ungrounded ones often died. So yeah, it's very important to know those things. I mean, from a scientific standpoint, and it's a big statement, but if you go to the Earthing Institute, there's movies, videos that show all of this, and it's really, really pretty cool.
Absolutely. The Earthing Institute is a fantastic resource for a lot of information about earthing. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and put the link to that here in the chat for everybody. I'll be the website right there. Moving on, we do have our next question, and actually going to take two questions here at the same time, just talking about the location of patches and where's the best recommended place to use those. If you do have, say, a sprained ankle or just had, say, surgery, would it be better to place it right on the site itself or palms of the hands or sole of the foot, whichever's closest?
The thing you need to know that your blood circulates once a minute. All the blood in your body, cycles in 60 minutes. And in that process, if you have one part of the body grounded as the blood passes through that area, which it may take a few minutes for all of the blood to get in and out of that particular area. But anyhow, as you are grounded, then the red blood cells, you increase the negative surface charge on the red blood cells. That causes them to repel each other, and that makes the blood more viscous, and it can get in and out of the capillaries, oxygenate the tissue, and reduce and prevent inflammation very effectively. However, if you have an injury, or let's say you had a dental surgery, common. So they go in and do some surgery, they pull out a tooth or whatever. And so they always give you I don't know what they give you now, but they used to give you a prescription for Vicodin because of that hot burning pain. And then, you take that every few hours as the pain would start screaming. Well, what happens when you put a patch near the site of that surgery, then what it does, it floods the area with free electrons. And those free electrons readily reduce the reactive oxygen species that are being produced by the neutrophils that are coming to the rescue to try to clean up the damage and what was going on. So if you put a patch, on where you have an acute situation, then you'll feel a cooling effect. You'll have that hot Vicodin, that oxidative burning pain, that you'll just feel it cool down. quickly if you just put a patch right over the area. And but with pain, we've learned two things. We learned that you have two kinds of pain. One is the oxidative pain. That doesn't exist in the animal world and when you're grounded outdoors. That only exists in humans that are insulated or ungrounded. But the hot burning pain is because you don't have enough free electrons and the radicals are oxidizing healthy tissue. Where on the other hand, if you are grounded, it will prevent that oxidative pain, but you will have a subtle pain that says, don't, leave me alone, protect me, or don't touch me. And healing so that the body can heal and recover, but you don't have that stressful that you have to take, pain pills and all those kind of things. To give you an idea, all the animals in the wild, they don't experience pain like humans, and we thought that they were different than us, but over the years we've learned that they kind of are just like us. But the reason is because they're grounded. You can't have oxidative pain or chronic inflammation in a grounded body. That's the physics, and that's the science behind grounding. So, but anyhow, it's just kind of an odd thing because we have generations that have grown up now that if you have pain, you're supposed to hit the Advil or you're supposed to do whatever. Where actually, if you just go outdoors and put your feet on the earth, you'll get some good benefits. But anyhow, to finish that question, putting your feet on the ground or putting patches on your feet or patches on the palms of your hand, it may take just a little bit longer, but it's truly effective because as the blood circulates, palms of the hands, bottom of the feet are the most conductive parts of the body. So you just kind of have to experiment and then listen to your body, and the pain goes away.
That's
You got your answer.
All right, and let's go ahead and move on to a question that we have coming in from YouTube. Is from JB Parrothead asking if during an electrical storm, if it's recommended to disconnect your earthing products from the ground rod outside of the window.
Well, if you're concerned, then you should. However, earthing, if you're using earthing coil cords, they all have a 1 mega ohm resistor in them. And if lightning were to come up that ground water and hit that wire, it would burn up the at the resistor within 1/4 of an inch. The copper wire in it would evaporate, so it wouldn't really get to the person. Lightning is more about if something were to hit you if you are between the ground and if you are between the earth and lightning, that's problematic. But if you're not, then it's really much less to worry about. But anyhow, lightning is totally unpredictable. It's massive. I mean, it's humongously, massive. You can't imagine how big it is. And so some little thing, lightning is going to find the path of least resistance. It's not going to look for a little ground rod and try to dump millions of volts into the ground. It would oxidize it, would blow it up. But anyhow, but really what you have to do is there's no real answer for that. You can have lightning rods, you can have all the things in the world, but there's still no real thing that's going to guarantee you anything about lightning. So avoid lightning at all costs. Be indoors when there is lightning, and phones that are connected to the lines running out, in the street, those kind of things. Those don't be on the phone because you've got a line going all the way to miles and miles and miles of aerial wire. Same with cable. And the electrical power, they have a ground rod at each pole, and they have a ground rod, where the power comes in the house. So that's usually not the problem. The only other problem would be if it gets into the home, it's going to follow the electrical ground, and this is going to happen in nanoseconds, and or the plumbing. But it's going to take but generally it's going to take and hit a tree. It's going to hit a tower. It's going to find something, the highest thing in the environment that's conductive, and that's where it's going to go. But again, it's totally unpredictable. So I use good judgment.
Absolutely. And we'll take down that path of least resistance, but always
Yes.
best to be careful.
Yeah. You don't want to be the path of least resistance.
Our next question here is coming in from our friend Patricia, letting us know she lives in Bozeman, Montana, and it gets really cold outside in the fall, a little too cold to go barefoot outside or inside. She was wondering if she can wear socks inside standing on her 2 floor grounding pads and still get the benefits of earthing.
Yep. I grew up in Montana. I spent lots of time skiing up on the Palmolives and 50 years ago in Bozeman. Anyway, for sure, your feet they perspire more than probably any other place on the body, bottoms of your feet. So if you put socks on, then your feet the perspiration from your body is going to hydrate the socks. And then when you put them on the mat, you're going to be conductive. And if you've got one of those little testers, you can see that.
And our next question here is coming from YouTube. This question is from Richard. Richard's asking if he's going in, or letting us know he's going in for knee replacement surgery, but he's wondering if he should inform the team of his earthing habits. What tips do you have for him after his surgery?
Well, after the surgery, for sure, put a patch on the bottom of the foot if you can, if you have the patches, and then put one at this, or around, or you can put them, you just want to keep the inflammation down so that you can have a rapid recovery. And putting it on the bottom of the foot, then you're increasing the negative surface charge of the red blood cells. They're all going to go through that area, and as they go to that area, they're going to give up electrons in order to reduce the radicals or inflammation in the area, and they'll pick up more electrons on the next time around. But you kind of have to, knee replacement, hip replacement, all these things. Everybody's a little bit different, but you kind of, some people wrap the unimats around them and tape them together and whatever. But you just kind of have to use your own good judgment. But I would say sleeping, those new black socks, by the way, that you guys have got, those are the most fantastic little product. If you don't like patches, then they are the product for kind of what we're talking about here. When you first put them on and wear them, the first hour or so, you're going to be a little edgy and whatever, because you're just getting supercharged is what you're getting. But anyhow, as all that settles down and your body equalizes with earth potential, then everything quiets down, and you end up having to go to the bathroom a little bit more for some reason, which is probably, it's getting rid of water weight and so on. But anyhow, so that's a good product also for this kind of a thing. But you just kind of have to, with all these things, we don't have a protocol that is do this for that. That's not our job. Our job was to show that there's no matter what you do to the body, grounding affects the body. And the main primary thing it does is reduces inflammation. But people who have, acute or chronic inflammatory, like arthritis, lupus, MS, cancer, and so on, you just got to play with it and find what works for you, because you will know. Pain, it tells you all, it gives you all the answers. You patch up and the pain goes away. That means that there's no fire, there's no inflammation. That means the immune system is able to recover and put all of its attention into healing rather than fighting the damage from inflammation. So it's really, really important to be grounded.
Absolutely. We do have our next question here is coming in from Margene. Martine is asking if someone is using magnets on their wrist or their back, is there any kind of interference with using a grounding product at the same time?
No, none whatsoever.
And moving on from there, we have our next question from Barbara, asking if 2 hours of feet directly on the grass would be the same as 2 hours of having the feet right on one of the grounding mats, or would they need more?
No, it would be identical. The earth has it's like the power that's coming to your house. 110, 120. And, you can turn on a light switch and the power is going to wiggle back and forth. And so it's the same, but it's a constant voltage. But the earth really is, it's dynamic. It goes up and down, but if you're connected to it, you go up and down with it. But by and large, you have enough free electrons in your body that it prevents inflammation. So I can't imagine. The only thing that would be different is if it's on a really hot summer, like in Palm Springs, where the sidewalks are hot and there's no moisture in the concrete. That would be the only time you wouldn't be grounded. Otherwise, just damp, normal concrete, you're grounded. Normal grass, you're grounded. We're connecting a ground rod to the earth, or using the earthing, the electrical earthing, connect a pad to it. It's just equalizing with the earth. There's not more or less. It's identical to being on the earth.
Absolutely. Moving on from here, we do have our next question is from Valor, right here on Zoom. They're asking if plugging 2 single mats on one bed into 2 different outlets, could that be an issue or create some kind of loop at that point?
No, the only time there's a loop, what they call a ground loop, is you would have to take the pad, put a snap on each end, connect one to a ground, and then connect the other one to a ground. So energy can travel in a circle. You have to have a circuit. You can't, electricity is not going to go anywhere unless there's a path, unless there's a circuit. But as soon as there's an end, then there's no flow. So with earthing products, there is no flow there's no electrical flow. All there is an instant equalization. It's like if you're here and the earth's here, or vice versa, and you're short of electrons, as soon as you touch the earth, then boom, you equalize. But there's no, it's more like a saturation than your body's going to absorb the amount of electrons it needs based on the amount of positive charge you have in your body. Other than that, it's going to maintain earth potential, which prevents inflammation in the body. Did I answer that question? I'm not sure, I got lost there.
Yeah, so it was mostly just about, potentially creating a loop if you have 2 grounding mats plugged into different outlets. I think we're able to address that.
No, yeah, a loop, the only loops that you really have to worry about, if you're putting 2 products together in the same room on the same circuit, it's really not an issue. It becomes an issue. Ground loops are an issue when you have 2 sources of ground and there's a path, and so, for instance, on one side of your house, let's say there's lots of green and moisture. On the other side of your house, it's kind of dry and rocky or whatever. So, and the sun is beating down on it. Okay, so if you have a ground rod on this side and a wire going all the way over the top of your house to the other side into a ground rod there, then electrons will flow from the damp, where it's moist and where there's more, over to the other side and try to equalize it. And how they learned this is really, really interesting. Because back in the early days, in the telegraph days, we had Pony Express and we had telegraph. And we had telegraph, they would string lines, and they would string them, 100 miles, and or from station to station. And then at each station, they had, thing they could tap out electrical pulses. So what they found was, here's a mountain, or this is the sun side of the mountain, and over here is the dark side. So as the sun travels throughout the day, it comes up, it goes on top. So then you have kind of a constant circuit. But at night, the circuit would go dead, because what was feeding the circuit was the earth ground. And so if you have a dark side where, light side where there's energy, it heats up the surface of the earth, and that excites electrons, and so electrons move. And then, but if there's a wire to an area that has less electrons, then it'll flow. So on the old, these old circuits, at certain times of the day, they couldn't use them because they had to wait for the sun to come up before they would come back to life. And so it's kind of interesting. But you're not going to find yourself, you'd have to rig up a ground loop unless you're dealing with electronics. And sometimes you can have dual ground, accidental dual grounds in electronic systems when you're mixing a whole bunch of component amplifiers, transmitters, receivers together. You have to be careful of ground loops. But in a home, it would be pretty challenging to have a ground loop.
You know, I've actually never heard that telegram story, but that's absolutely fascinating.
Yep.
Moving on to our next channel here, or next question here. We do have asking if it's better to connect to a ground rod or to an electrical socket due to surge interference.
Well, technically, from an electrical standpoint, it would be better off for you to connect to an electrical ground. And there's kind of rules in the electrical world. You have one ground servicing a home or a facility, and then all things are connected to that ground. That way there can be no arcing or anything like that. Sometimes there's a little bit of noise on that, and you have a better ground because it's going 8 to 12 feet into the earth. So it's a rock solid ground, and you can't move it, and gardener can't pick it up and lay it up on the bench, forget to plug it back in, and a whole bunch of reasons. On the other hand, it's pure ground. So if you use the 11-inch ground rods that we sell, the reason those are 11 inches is because by law, you cannot stick anything in the ground over 11 inches without calling for
surveys.
They have to come out and verify the phone line, cable, power lines, gas lines and all that kind of stuff before you can poke anything into the earth, so you don't blow up something or damage something. And but anyhow, that ground rod is a temporary ground rod. It works good. It kind of mimics standing barefoot on the earth, but you have to put it somewhere where there's a bush or plants can grow naturally. And if it gets too dry, you have to be able to water it because the water table will drop sometimes. And so they're kind of you have to water them to make them equal with the regular ground rod, an earthen ground rod. So there are some people who, and I have been playing with this for years, and I've been doing a lot of research on it over the last 6 months. And I found myself sometimes, because I travel, and half the time I'm on an earthen ground and half the time I'm on a dedicated ground. And I've noticed that, in one particular location, some nights I will kind of feel I feel edgy. And so I assume in my mind, well, it's got to be EMF, it's got to be all this noise and all this electrification of the ground system. Well, and so then I, trace all that out, verify, and there is no real noise on the ground. On the other hand, you've got a ground rod going 8, 10, 12 feet into the earth. So any noise going on the earth, whatever, is going to register. So there is noise, but the main thing with ground is like muscles. And again, I wish I had pictures and a way to easily pull up charts. But when we started grounding people down and using biofeedback, we would see and measure the trapezius muscles or various muscles on the body. And before grounding, there would be very tight bands, for all the different people. But as soon as we grounded them, they would shift up in energy, and then they would have these big bands like this. And so that's why people who, once they get grounded, you have more range of motion because your muscles aren't tight and so on. So anyhow, but to carry this on, I have found that over the years that the people who are sensitive to EMF or electrical or static electricity or touch or temperature or noise and all these things, voices, outdoors noise, these people have exhausted adrenals. That means something took place in their life, that they were lived in a chronically elevated sympathetic state for a significant amount of time. And then because your adrenals and your parasympathetic it uses the hormones from your adrenals to dampen that cortisol from your fight or flight or your anger or your stress or whatever it is that's going on. But as that's chronic, then the adrenals they have a limited supply of resources. So you exhaust the adrenals, then the sympathetic becomes more chronic, and the pain comes up, and then you get this loop, this chronic loop of pain creates stress, stress creates sympathetic, and so it's a vicious loop, and that goes on long enough, and then eventually ends up in an autoimmune disease because your body is so full of inflammation, the immune system can't function. So anyhow, some people can't sleep on an earth ground, and I've been working on that for 20 years. And sometimes I think it's more because of the amount of ground that they're getting. I mean, they're getting a rock solid, a real ground. But also you have to know that when you are at earth potential, when you are grounded, I mean, earth energy is coming up the wire and energizing the pad, and you're laying on it, then when you lay on it, then you are at earth potential. So then your body is negative. Now you've got these 60 hertz out here, frequencies and stuff in the environment, not on the line, but on the environment, or in that environment. Like your refrigerator kicks on, that spike goes through the whole house, or whatever it is. And so it affects your body no matter what you do, and no matter what anybody else does. So some people are more sensitive to others. So I know for sure it's the adrenals, but when you are grounded and you have a lot of 60 hertz in your environment, then you have the earth energy is pushing that away 60 times a second. So you have this, some people can feel it as a tingle or an energy. And that's because you do have too much, you have elevated 60 hertz in your home. Some people are sleeping on water beds, electric heating pads, electric mattress pads, electric blankets, or they have their chargers and everything in the world right next to their bed. Nobody's going to have their phone in the living room. It's going to be right there now. And a lot of people go to sleep with a charged phone or phone charger just laying there on their pillow. I mean, I'm talking about the kids that I've seen and stuff. But anyhow, so there's all this noise. There's no harm being created. There's no EMF going through your body and burning your heart and causing a heart attack. That's all craziness. That's all nonsense. But what's happening is you are at earth potential. So you are like the earth itself. You are an extension of the earth, like a tree or anything else. So you have the electrical circuit charge of the earth. And so now these EMFs are pushing, but the earth is pushing back, pushing it away from the tree, pushing it away from the grounded animal, pushing it away from the grounded human. But you can sense this. So it's your sympathetic nervous system is sensing it. And the people who do not have, who have exhausted adrenals are going to feel it. They're more sensitive. They're what you call electrically sensitive. They can feel things where the average person can't, because the parasympathetic is dampening it and modulating it so that keeping the cortisol down so you don't get overrun with cortisol. So I could go on and on for hours on this. I hope I touched on something that made some sense, but it's not what everybody thinks. But on the other hand, you do what's the most comfortable for you. But if you have noise, the noise is coming as much from the electrical in your environment. By having a 11-inch ground rod versus a 10-foot ground rod, you have a stronger energy source. So there's more to it than that. But the main thing is don't do anything that's uncomfortable. But we build safety in. You're not going to get electrocuted, and no EMF is going to go traveling through your body. I mean, that's all nonsense. Anyway, I'll leave it at that.
Now, there is a bit of nuance to the grounding and the sources that you use there as well. So that was fantastic.
Yep.
And we do have our next question. It's coming from John here on Zoom. And John was wondering if, say, their kids were to pet a dog or a horse or any other animal, would they be able to absorb the earthing electrons to get a little more healthy? And if that's possible, just through touching them.
Through the animals, yes. When we ground a dog, for instance, he can be standing on a grounding mat or a grounding floor. You can put the testers on him and you won't be able to measure anything. But if you put it on his nose, the green light goes off. Or you put it, so, but so we're talking about electrons and so on. But the other thing with petting an animal, you're going to get, every animal has its own energy field, electric fields, and you have yours. And when you touch each other, you couple up, and if you got good vibes, the dog will give you good, and vice versa, and so on. But just touching an animal, if you're grounded, is going to be calming and soothing because they have a lot of static electricity on their bodies. If you notice dogs, first thing they do when they run out the door, they usually get down on their, and push their body on the grass. That's to get the static out of their hair. And especially, it's just terrible the amount of static these animals live in. Nobody knows about it. You don't see it unless you stick some peanuts to them.
And I know, especially out here in the desert when it's dry, when I'm going down to pet the dogs, I'll get a little shock there every once in a while. So.
Yep.
Our next question is coming in from Andrew. And Andrew is asking how to make a home or building that is conductive to the Earth's magnetic field. So I'm assuming it would be, how to best build a grounded home, for example.
Well, if it's about magnetic, you have to realize there's a magnetic field is the Earth has its own magnetic field. And it goes through brick, steel, and it goes all the way out into space, millions and millions and millions of miles. And so it's good. You have North Pole and South Pole. So the Earth is a huge magnet. And it has to do with the Earth spinning and going around the sun and all that. And then the molten core of the Earth churning. So you have what's the word on it? Dynamic electrical motion going on here. But it's always been there. It can shift a little bit from north to south. Sometimes you'll have reversals. And that would depend on, I don't know what for sure. But anyhow, so a magnetic field, all you got to do is, you don't have to worry about magnetic field. It's already there. It will always be there. And it will go through brick. It'll go through anything. Now, Earth's electrical potential, that means that when we use that word, this is the electrical surface charge that's on the Earth, a layer of electrons. It's like, the ocean, it's a layer of water. It covers everything. If you can imagine this, it's they call it an electron cloud. It's a cloud of electrons that is just everywhere. And so back in the old days, we used to be barefoot and sleep on the Earth, and no problem because we always conducted these electrons. We were always negatively charged, and we did not have chronic inflammation. Did not exist. If it would have existed, we as a human species would never have gotten here. So, because they would have all ended up with autism and diabetes, and because eventually now we're going to have 1 in 10 with autism and 1 in 10 with, it's more than that right now, 1 in 2 with diabetes. It goes on and on and on. But so anyhow, in the 60s, we invented plastics, put them on our shoes. And so we insulated ourselves and we're no longer naturally grounded. And that's when inflammation started to manifest in the body. by and large. So we have an exponential curve now going on, and it's still climbing from autism, lupus, all these autoimmune related health disorders, cancer, cardiovascular disease, lupus, MS, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, you name it. Punch any disease into the computer, Google, and add the word inflammation. And if you can find the relationship, then you know it's an autoimmune disease, and it's related to living away from the earth and wearing shoes, being insulated from the earth, and no longer being naturally ground, and eating dead food. All of our food today that we eat is pretty much dead. But we don't get the electrons that we need. Our body always we didn't know we needed electrons until we lost them. And then 50, 60 years later, wait a minute, there's a problem here, because we got the best hospitals, the best scientists, the best medicine. We have the best of everything, but yet people are getting sicker and sicker and sicker. We have more food than we've ever had. We've had everything, but now more people are suffering from health disorder than ever before. So it's because we changed our environment, and we're no longer naturally grounded, and our bodies are full of inflammation. So I went on my rant here. So did I missed the question again? Tell me again what I'm doing.
I think we were able to get there. I believe that one was just with regards to building a home.
Building
conducive
home
to the magnetic field or grounded.
Yeah. So what you want to do is, if you're building a slab home, it's easy. The earth is grounded. You put concrete on top of it, and especially with rebar, then the pad that your home is going to be setting on, it's grounded. So don't put carpet on it. Polish it and stain it and make it pretty and do whatever, and keep it conductive like earth. And have some throw rugs so that if it gets cold or whatever, you don't have to worry about that. But it won't get cold. It'll hold room temperature or whatever you keep it at. And but that's the best way to ground a home. Beyond that, then you have to go put artificial conductive carpets, conductive plastic tiles. You have to put bed pads on your bed like we make. You have to do all these crazy things. And I agree it's absurd that this is a problem. We should have been aware of it. It's amazing that we're not aware. But anyhow, the main thing is your floor. If you can go barefoot on the earth, you're going to be healthy. I mean, we have millions and millions and millions of years of proof. In the animal world, they're going barefoot on the earth. They don't have autoimmune disease. It doesn't exist in the animal world. Animals who live indoors, 50% of them die from cancer. That's autoimmune.
Beneath our feet.
Yeah. So but you can go on Google and punch in grounded floors, grounding, environmental grounding, clean rooms, because grounding is a big thing. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry in scientific, in labs, in surgical rooms, in clean rooms where you can't have any static or sparks, or if you're building computers or software, you can't have static electricity. You have to have your people grounded. They're the healthiest people in the world. It was surprising to find that in one of the South Africans, a behavioral scientist, he wrote me a letter one day and he says, I never would have understood this or made the connection except for reading the Earthing book. But they were measuring the difference in the health costs of white collar workers versus miners who worked in the ground. And the miners had like 20% of the cost of the white collar workers. And so then they started realizing that, and then they found also that some hotels people wouldn't stay at no matter what. And it was because of the high static electricity in the carpets they had in the hotels, and the environment was just highly statically charged. And these native people, and they wouldn't stay in these hotels. Only Anglo, or European types. And then a lot of the tribes over there, when they're negotiating or making decisions with these governments and companies and stuff, they have their meetings and everything. Then they go outdoors and sit bare butt on the earth for an hour, and then they make their decision. Then they go back inside. But so, anyhow, grounding is a big deal. It's been around forever. It's just that we got so enamored with the light and TV and computers and this fantastic, all these creature comforts that we have and all this entertainment. Man, we're blinded by the light.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Moving on from there. We do have one of our questions coming in from Facebook. This is coming from Chris. Chris actually had a muscle tear in his calf. He got severe swelling in his calf, ankle, and foot. He did want to let us know he was laying on an earthing pad every night for 10 to 12 hours, but didn't really notice anything. Is there any way that he can really tell how it's helping his body along the way? So he did verify he has checked it, the outlet at least, to verify it's properly grounded.
Well, if it's a tear, a muscle tear, I mean, that's a serious thing. Sometimes you have to have an operation, sew it back up. Depends on the degree. That's put a patch on it. But if it's not recovering, I mean, we put, a lot of people have shoulder tears, muscle tears, and they put a patch on it and they get significant benefit, but it takes a few days, weeks before they get the recovery that they want. So I don't know what kind of mat you're using. I don't know what brand, I don't know anything. But I would suggest using the patches and putting the patches right in the area of the tear. And then you have to restrict the movement. You have to use some taping and do some various things to restrict so that there can be some recovery. But the grounding will reduce the pain, reduce the oxidative stress, the inflammation, which will help promote the healing. But there's other issues here. I just don't know enough to, don't have enough information.
We do have our next question here is coming in from YouTube. This is from Phil. And Phil is asking if we've done any studies on exercising while grounded to see if it increases performance. For example, putting a patch on when riding an exercise bike, see if it could potentially increase, say, VO2 max, for example.
Well, we put a few $1 million into that. You can go to the Earthing Institute and look up delayed onset muscle soreness, the DOM study. What we did up there is we took the only way we could induce inflammation into a human body to do a test is we had to, I forget what we did. I think we put a third of their weight on their shoulders and then had them do, crunches, whatever, various sets. So it burned the calf so that in 3 days, they wouldn't be able to walk normally. So that's normal exercise, normal. When you go out to spring training or something, you guys can't walk 3 days later. Okay, so what we did there is we took a certain number of healthy 20-year-old guys and put them through various sets of exercises. And then we had hotel rooms that we used for this. And they used the same hotel there, and they did MRIs once a day. They drew blood once a day. They all had the same diet throughout this. So everything was the same. We had a grounded group and an ungrounded group. So what we saw was, you have to look at the study to really get the essence of it. But inflammation doesn't manifest in grounded bodies. You're going to have sore, you're going to tear muscle down, you're going to have rebuilding, you're going to have lactic acid, you're going to have some of these things, but you're not going to have that oxidative burning stress, that extends the recovery. And we've, to give you an idea, the reason we did this study is because we started grounding the Tour de France groups back in 2003, I think. And these guys are out riding these bicycles for 20, 21 days, something like that. And they're riding 100 to 200 miles a day. It's crazy, man. And so anyhow, we grounded them at the end of the day. We had sleep mats on their beds. We had patches all over their body where they needed them from injuries or whatever was. A lot of them had all kinds of injuries and stuff. But the main thing that they found was that for the first time in the history of the tour, that they had every team member finish the race 7 years in a row in the grounded teams, which is unheard of. And but anyhow, there's big stories. People would get, what they call road, where they fall on the asphalt and it just grates the skin and stuff. And some of these people would have big lacerations from falling on the sprocket or whatever. And so we'd ground them up, get them in, put them in triage first, ground them, put them in bed, ground them. And then we'd put patches wherever we needed so they could get up in the morning and get back in the race. And many of these people would never been able to without the grounding, because the overnight healing is just remarkable. And to give you a nice example, I remember one of the guys got a bee sting one day. Can't remember his name, but anyhow, his side of his cheek just swelled up like a baseball. And now these guys can't take any drugs whatsoever during the tour. So they just put a patch on it, swelling went away within about an hour, completely. And so then they had a big, whirlwind of activity. What kind of drug was him? Because they've never seen anything like that. He has to be taking a drug and so on. So, and we didn't give away the secrets of grounding in some of those early races. In fact, they all won the tour, those 7 races that we were involved. They still do a lot of it, but we don't do it like we used to. It was too expensive and whatever. But anyhow, so there are several other studies. There's yoga studies that show you don't have the delayed onset or the soreness when you're doing yoga. It's like, for instance, if you've ever done yoga, or if you own a yoga studio, you get people to come in and then you run them through the first couple, 3 or sets. 3 or 4 days later, they never come back. They're too stiff and sore, and so on. But if you ground them or use grounded yoga mats, and that's what the yoga study's about, then they don't have that reaction, and then they stay in the game. They get stronger, and so it's just better all the way around. We have weightlifters that have world champion weightlifters who have used grounding and credit grounding with it. But any other, just go to the Earthing Institute.net site, and there's a bunch of studies there.
A lot of studies out there, a lot of great information. I actually did post a link to the DOMS study that Clint was mentioning there in the chat for anyone who's interested as well.
To give you an idea, I'm 77 years old. If I go barefoot, I can walk 5 miles and still have the same amount of energy at the end of the 5 miles that I did when I started. But if I put shoes on, I can't walk a mile without losing my energy, and my demeanor changes. I've had enough of this crap, but it's when you are grounded, you have those electrons coming into your body, and then you're breathing oxygen, and your metabolism improves, your ATP increases. You're a fuel cell, but you need sunlight, oxygen, and ground, and they work together. It's a big deal
about finding that balance. Absolutely.
Big deal to an athlete.
Sorry. The next question here is coming in from Zoom. It's coming from our friend Greg, who's asking if you can use the grounding sock without connecting the sock, but placing your feet on, say, a universal mat, for example.
Yeah, that would work.
It's conductive all the way through.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Next question. Go ahead.
I think that new one is 20% silver, something, but it's really a good product.
Absolutely. So if you do have problems with cold feet, and you're still wanting to use a universal mat, that is the perfect product to go for right there. All right. Next question is coming in from Nancy. Nancy is letting us know she had an electrical specialist tell her that earthing is actually not advisable due to there being so much EMF energy in the earth, and that it has disrupted the earth frequencies and lessened the Schumann waves. I think that's in regards to Schumann resonance.
Yeah, I'm sure he's one of the world's experts. Go to the earthinginstitute.net and type up and pull up go to the research section and pull up I think there's several papers, but pull up the one, this misinformation about grounding, earthing. It just says misinformation about earthing. It's a paper that was written by Gaetan Chevalier, who is a physicist, electrical engineer, and teaches this stuff everywhere from University of Los Angeles to UCI, whatever, and so on and so on and so on. Anyhow, these guys that are saying that, why are they saying this? They don't know this. This is gibberish. They're all, it's usually people fishing to scare earthing customers so that they will pay them money to come to their house and do, the thousands of dollars that they want to come in and rewire their lamps and do all the voodoo. I don't even want to talk about it. I'll shut up. I'll stop. It's just nonsense. Rape, rob, pillage, and plunder with ignorance. I mean, it's just terrible. Anyway.
I just wanted to say I did actually link that misinformation article that you were mentioning there, as well as a great webinar that Dr. Chevalier had put on for us as well with regards to grounding and EMS also. So we have that information in the chat.
Lots of other studies too.
Absolutely. All right. Our next question here. We are going to move on to our question from Susan. Susan's asking, just with your extensive electrical knowledge, she was wondering if you're familiar with RIFE, which is some type of vibration therapy machines. And if so, what are your thoughts?
I don't know what it is. I've not seen it. I can look it up and learn about it and maybe answer your question. Just tell me what it is in next week or so. What is it again? Say it again.
RIFE.
Oh, right.
Rife machine. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I do know about the Rife machine. The Rife machine is, and those kind of things. What they do is they assume that there is a pathogen in your body and anything that is alive, every cell in your body, every organ in your body, every group of cells, every single cell, every one of them have their own set of frequencies. That's what makes them different. That's how they communicate with each other. That's how they know who they are versus who they aren't. And so if you have a pathogen, it's going to have a certain frequency in your body. And so the Rife machines they have all these different frequencies. And they have you hold this device and then they run these frequencies into your body. And then if you do it long enough, the assumption is that those frequencies will kill those cells, or they have for some frequency that will kill that particular type of cell or that kind of whatever. I know that there's a lot of people who report having benefit from it. And I would, on the other hand, there's a lot of science behind it, where it's questionable, and I'm not the judge of any of that. I have a whole different view on everything in the body. Any of these artificial things out there, I mean, you've never seen a baby born with a Rife machine or a magnet taped to their butt, or a pair of Nike tennis shoes. Your immune system is a killer app. The immune system can get you through anything. I don't care what it is. That's who you are. I mean, the main organ in your body is your immune system. It's everything. It coordinates the activity of everything in your body, and it takes on all challengers, whether they're viruses or bacteria or all of these different things. And the only time the immune system can't maintain health in your body is when you're doing something or you're living in a state that your immune system is challenged to the point that it can't perform. Then you have these problems show up. And it can be anything from cancer to, you name it, an autoimmune inflammation-related health disorder is what we're talking about. And there's 85 of them that are popular. Starts with autism. That's an inflammation-related health disorder. Diabetes, inflammation-related health. You can't, if you don't have inflammation, you can't have diabetes because it's an inflammation-related health disorder. You have to have inflammation first. Then it's like you have to have inflammation first, then you have pain. You can't have pain unless you have inflammation. You can't have diabetes unless you have inflammation. And it goes on and on and on. Cancer cardiovascular disease. They're all inflammation related. So what happens when you have inflammation in your body, the immune system is that inflammation is a fire. It's oxidizing tissue in your body, not just in a little joint, but if there's inflammation there, there's inflammation in your whole body. And your whole immune system is somewhat compromised. Now, the immune system will wall off areas and say, okay, we can lose this arm, but we want to try to save the heart and the brain and not feed the electrons there that it needs and preserve them for various other functions. The immune system is, the intelligence of the immune system is unspeakable. There's all the intelligent, all the human beings in the world. No way, don't stand a chance to even the poorest man's immune system on the earth. Okay, because this is what life is about. And so anyhow, but the point is, these other things, all these things out there, I totally believe in, I'm opinionating. I shouldn't be doing this. I'm sorry, but it's not my opinion that counts. What counts is that I answer people's questions and get them out there. All of these things, if they help you, there's such a thing as a placebo effect. And what a placebo effect is, if you can believe something, if you can believe it, you can achieve it. If you can believe it, sometimes the immune system and the mind and the body, they don't know the difference between what's real and not real. They just assume it's real. And so these things and these resources, I'm not going to say they don't or do not, but don't ever underestimate the immune system. The placebo effect, because that's your immune system doing magic. This instantaneous remission, that's only from one thing. That's from your immune system. They finally got a second wind and it went in there and kicked butt. But anyhow, so I'm not going to say they won't interfere with anything. But if you have health disorder, think immune system first. There's no lotion, potion, or tool out there that's going to restore your immune system. The only way you can restore the immune system is you have to remove the things in your life that are stressing your immune system. And that can be mental stress, it can be financial stress, it can be physical stress, it can be in the how you live, your genetics to a degree, but from more primarily your living environment and those things. So this is really serious, and that's why I scream about it sometimes, is think your immune system will take care of you. You have to figure out how to get the stress out of the way so it can do what it does. It doesn't need any help from you except for you to remove those things that are interfering with its ability to maintain health. Go to the animal world, no autoimmune disease, no cancer, no diabetes, no cardiovascular disease, no Parkinson. Go to the animals that live indoors with their owners, they manifest the same inflammation-related health disorders as their owners. It's environment. Okay, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I don't think so.
It's a lot of really important information there. Absolutely. Moving on to next question here. Friend Linda on YouTube wanted to let us know that she had a very speedy recovery after a bad fall and no longer actually needed to ice her knees. I was very thankful to be able to ground inside with our products. So I just wanted to give a shout out to that and say thank you.
That's what it's for.
Absolutely. And on from there, we do have our friend Martin who's asking if you wear grounded footwear, for instance, moccasins, is it okay to use foot powder in them, or would that prevent grounding?
Sure. Moccasins, if they don't have any plastic liners and stuff, then your feet sweat and they will hydrate the soles of the moccasin and you will build up a lot of salts from the body and they become very conductive in time. But you do have to wear them quite a bit in order to keep them in that state. But yeah, powder is fine.
Definitely. Right. We do have a question from Joan. Joan is asking if it matters which side of the body that you use a patch, for example, front side for discomfort or inflammation in the lungs area, IBS or heart, So how important is the location of the patch?
Well, I can say this: if you have COPD, or issues with the lung respiratory system, the best thing I found is to put one over the top portion of each lung. That's why we have two patches, 2 ground, 2 feet, whatever. It works really good in pairs. And it's terrible to have 2 wires. One's fine, 2 is better. But so if you have indigestion, put it over your tummy. If you have other issues, constipation, put it down lower, put the patches down lower. If you have joint pain or acid reflux, just put the patch right on the tummy. It'll go away in a few minutes, because you're pouring, it's like instead of pouring water on a fire, you're pouring electrons on the inflammation. And the electrons are like water, they're putting the fire out. You're quenching the fire, you're neutralizing these. Anything that has pain or discomfort or all these things, this is inflammatory in nature. You just need to get more negative charge. You need to get back your natural negative charge, your natural barefoot on the earth charge.
That's the great thing about the patches, is it allows you to really easily just pinpoint those specific areas that you need it.
Yeah. And then play with them. But for whole body, if you want your body just to really straighten out in 3 days, sleep with the patches on the bottom of the feet or put those socks on. And then all your joints are going to loosen up. All the muscles are going to loosen up. You're going to get rid of a lot of water weight. And all of a sudden you realign. I can't explain it. But it's, there's energy and there's motion, but it releases all of the charge in your body and puts out the fire. But by releasing those muscle tensions, then the bones go back into place.
Our next question is coming in from Dave. Dave is asking if there are any guidelines for the amount of earthing time per day to achieve various health benefits, or perhaps a minimum recommended amount of time per day.
Well, the first one is any amount of grounding is better than no grounding. Second one is if you have pain in your body, that's your immune system screaming at you, please ground me and put the fire out. If you have any kind of pain, I don't care what kind of pain it is. If you have pain, that's your immune system. So that means you need to get grounded. Stay grounded until the pain goes away. Beyond that, if you have, like flaring arthritis and you have lupus and MS and all something terrible, you need to be grounded more than you're not grounded. Again, so your immune system isn't so challenged. So the immune system, put the fire out so the immune system can go at least spend 12 hours cleaning up. But 24/7 is perfect. Anything is better than nothing. Pain is the indicator.
We do have our next question is coming in from Roberto. This was from YouTube, asking if there's been any studies considering the difference between grounding products versus natural earthing, taking into account outdoor elements such as light, indoor elements such as EMFs, and lastly, wondering if there would be a synergistic advantage in the natural outside scenario that indoors could not replicate. So it's a similar aspect to the question we had earlier, just about the difference between grounding indoors versus natural.
Okay. Well, grounding is about electrical or electrons and energy. So when you connect things together that are conductive, then they equalize. Like if you're a body worker, for instance, and a person comes in to get a massage and they're depleted on electrons and they're full of pain, that's why they're there. And here you are, a healthy body worker, and you're taking care of yourself and whatever. So so the client has like 100 electrons, but the body worker has 200 electrons. So as soon as she touches that client, 50 electrons are going to travel from her body to the client's body, Client's going to feel better. She's going to feel worse because she gave up electron. But then they both have 150 electrons. So that's what grounding is. It's about equalizing charge, reducing charge. So there's no difference between two things. There's no charge. Charge means that there's an imbalance. So keep me on track here because I want to answer these questions. Tell me what I'm supposed to answer next.
So with this one was the difference between, I guess the benefits you can find grounding with products indoors, connecting to a grounding system, or naturally outdoors.
Okay, so outdoors, it's the same thing. Your body, the earth is at one electrical, it has a certain amount of electrons per square inch. Your body has a certain amount of electrons per square inch. So when you touch the earth, they're going to equalize. So you have the same amount pro rata as the earth does. So you're grounded. You cannot have inflammation in your body when you are grounded. It's against the laws of physics. Can't happen. That's what charge is all about. That's what grounding is all about, is to reduce charge. Inflammation is charge. Inflammation is a reactive oxygen. The word reactive meaning that it has an electrical charge and it can steal electrons and damage. It can cause fire. That's what reactive means. Okay, so so they're both identical. The reason that we have, if I could tell you that just go outdoors and spend a half hour a day or a half hour twice a day with your bare feet on the earth is all you ever need, I would say that, and because it would be so easy and my life would be easier, everybody's life would be easier. The problem is when you're younger, that seems to work. You come home from work and you go get grounded afterwards and you drain that inflammation and stress out of your body, or you get up in the morning and you've been sleeping in a bag of static foam and all that stuff that goes on in the fibers and everything. And you get up in the morning, so you got a little stiff and aches and pains. So you go out in the morning and stand on the earth, and it's going to reduce all that aches and pains, and you're going to breathe better, feel better. It's kind of like taking a shower in the morning. A lot of showers are very grounding. Some of them aren't, but some really are. So that's what it's all about. The problem with is everybody's not the same. There are no two people the same. Some people have autism. Some people have lupus. Some people have chronic respiratory problems. Some people have chronic gastrointestinal problems. Some people have chronic joint pain, chronic this. Some people have chronic, you name it. So everybody's a little bit different. And some people are in trouble. I mean, their health is very compromised. And so what grounding is about is as you get older, then your body begins losing its resources, especially after age 27. Your body's like this, it's bulletproof till about 27. You really have to work hard to harm the body before 27. But after 27, it switches. Then you better start preserving it. But it's kind of the way nature is. And but the older you get, the more you have, if you want health, the more you're older you get, the more you need to ground. That's what I'm going to say. If your health is compromised, then get some patches and put the fire out. And start over, and then start grounding yourself in at work or here, or go play in the park. Go spend the weekend with your feet in the creek, or do things to get outdoors, get out of the house as much as you possibly can. Get vitamin D and so on. But if your health is compromised and you get older, then you need to be grounded more. So when we did our studies, we learned very quickly that the number one thing that we could do for somebody is to ground them during sleep, because they're not going to do anything. They don't have to do anything. All they have to do is lay down and go to sleep. So that's when it took us 20 years to come up with decent products, grounded sleep products, something that was conductive you could sleep on that would last and be 100% conductive. We now have it, but it didn't happen overnight. But the point is, this is not I want to ground or I don't want to ground. If your body's on fire, you got no option. And you got to be real careful buying a lot of the junk that's on the market, especially on Amazon. There are hundreds and hundreds of people selling knockoff grounding product. A lot of these are the old prototypes that we tested and we would get product here and there. And then the Chinese, as soon as we'd take it out and burn them or whatever, they would be on the market next, and so on. A lot of these products, they're great. They work for a little bit, but they don't work long term. So you have to have tools. You have to, you have to have the testers and checkers or voltmeters and all that kind of stuff. But most of all, if you aren't sleeping well and not getting a reduction in pain and all of that, there's either one or two things wrong. You have a grounding product that isn't working, or you are mentally stressed to the point that your body is flooded with cortisol and there ain't enough ground potential to put the fire out. And so, but it's one of the two. And oftentimes, especially people, a lot of people, these grounding products, I've had people tell me, I had somebody, this is a doctor, famous doctor, yes. I said, well, I got your sheet 12 years ago when you guys first started doing this. And said, and I sleep on it every night, for 12 years. Well, I'm not sure I'm going to believe that. But I said, you need a new product, because those products couldn't have lasted more than, 9 months, a year at the most. So we have, heaven only knows how many people are sleeping on these old cotton sheets where the nylon silver coated nylon is oxidized and it doesn't work anymore. But it's a challenge doing this, because I wish we could have kept this in a box until we had all the science done, until we had everything perfect and whatever. But on the other hand, we've grounded a couple million people around the world, and so they did get the benefit. So it's kind of like, it's kind of like when Woz and everybody, when they were building the computers up in Sunnyvale, and they had boards and they were selling, you can buy them in Popular Mechanics, and you can do counting and stuff. And then all of a sudden, the little computers started. But every year they improved the computers, and they're still doing that. The problem with this product is you're aging every day. Inflammation doesn't get any better. You got to put it out. You have to keep it out. So it's not about it's about having an effective grounding product. That was our target. But in the meantime, so many people have gotten involved in grounding, and everybody, do-it-yourselfers, everybody's doing everything. The problem with that is, we didn't. If that were true, then we would stop. We wouldn't. There's no more need for us. But we're still doing studies. I mean, we're still supporting studies around the world. We're still our grounded yoga mats will be out soon, and they are bulletproof. They are really awesome. And we have other products that are coming that are absolutely essential. These products need to get to the market. Unfortunately, because of the internet, all you got to do is steal the name Earthing and put their whatever, and all of a sudden you're an authority and you look real. You don't know the difference between what we do and what everybody else does. So, it's really, the internet is just an abyss. But on the other hand, it is what it is. I can't change it, so there's no sense bitching about it. It's just keep doing what we do. That's all we can do.
Unfortunate product of the internet, indeed. But we always do our best to make sure we have the best stuff out there.
Yep.
So do you have another question here? It's coming from our friend Andrew. This is an interesting one. I don't think I've actually heard this question before, but asking if grounding could potentially help to get rid of eye floaters.
Say that again.
Wondering if grounding could potentially help to get rid of eye floaters. So just those kind of specks that you see floating in your vision.
No, eye floaters are usually your 50 years of age or older. And I don't remember the name of the lens. But as you get older, depending on lifestyle, all that kind of stuff, earlier or later, that lens separates and breaks into pieces, and that's what those floaters are. I'd highly recommend, based on what I know, that they have that surgery now to replace those lenses. Very inexpensive, pretty awesome results. But I do know from myself and a few other people, when I go to get my eyes tested, the only reason I wear glasses is because I can't see 12 inches, but I can see 100 miles when I'm outdoors. You know, I can have perfect, 20/20 vision outdoors, but up close, I have this reading problem. But anyhow, they're always amazed because they say my eye bed is so healthy for my age. And other people have said the same thing. That's inflammation. I don't have inflammation, but inflammation is one of the number one promoters of eye issues and eye problems. But it's not going to get rid of the floaters. If you've got the floaters, then you have to get the lenses replaced. But that's all I can say.
We do have a few quick questions here. We do have another question that's coming from Wild Style Vlogs on YouTube, asking if earthing can help with chronic back pain and cramps.
Well, I wish we had more time to talk about, back pain and cramps. Okay. What's causing it? Are you suffering from an injury? Did you fall off the ladder? Are you in a car accident, or did you fall off a bicycle? What caused this? Cramps. What's causing these cramps? I mean, do you have a health disorder? What you have is something up here is creating stress and tension in the body. So by getting grounded, what the number one thing that it does is reduces inflammation and pain and relaxes the sympathetic nervous system and quiets the cortisol. Then the parasympathetic can start coming back up, and your pain and everything will come down. But grounding can do miracles. It can put out a fire in your body, but it can't stop what's going on in your mind sometimes that's causing the stress, that's causing you to be frozen, whether it's whatever it is. It can be anger, it can be work issues, it can be whatever it is, but there's another component here. But grounding will help for sure, because you releases the body, releases the tension. Sleep on it, you start sleeping better, but then try to figure out what's causing that in the first place also, and try to ground that out. Okay.
So, we do have another question here. This is a common question that we do get, asking if it's possible to ground on concrete.
Well, as long as the concrete's on earth, concrete is earth, and concrete holds moisture. And there's rebar in concrete. So unless it's 120 degrees in Palm Springs and the sun's been shining on it for 4 hours, the concrete might be a little dry. But other than that, concrete is usually a perfect ground. Your patio in the back, if it's concrete, should be perfect. Sometimes what you may want to do is, just dampen it down a little bit, spritz it. You don't have to dry, whatever. Moisture is better, but you have to realize that even standing on bare earth, the topsoil sometimes is dry. The grass is dry or dead or not very conductive. So it's not, there can be a mega ohm of resistance or a lot of resistance just right there. And your skin has resistance. So it's just those electrons are there. So put your feet there and just keep them there. And they will migrate into your body, and eventually your color is going to come up and the pain's going to go away and you're going to be happy.
Absolutely. We do have our next question here is coming from Pam here on Zoom. Pam was letting us know she experiences stiffness in her legs and hands from scleroderma, but since she's been earthing outside, plus purchasing the starter kit from over 3 weeks ago, seeing some results there, saying she uses the universal mat and chair mat every day, even in the bed. What her question is she's wondering if she should also use the ground therapy patches to supplement that and help the healing along, or would it be sufficient to use the products that she's currently using?
I have much exposure to this group. What's worked best is use the patches at night to sleep with the patches on, even though you're doing everything else. But with scleroderma, it's very important. You put the patches on, you keep them on. You keep those patches on as much as possible, because that is a very significant inflammation-related problem. But I've seen miracles, so pay attention. Anything works. Listen to your body. ground yourself out, get outdoors, get some sunshine as much as you can. Not a lot of direct burning sunshine, a lot of vitamin D. Eat live food. Remove anything from your diet, your mental state, everything, anything that can be challenging your immune system. But the grounding is going to be of significant benefit. And please keep in touch with us. Let us know, because we like to share those kind of things with the people who also need this information.
Thanks. We do have another question here that came in from Facebook. This is coming from Michelle. Michelle is wondering if there's any research or knowledge on earthing with regards to bladder issues, specifically, looks like interstitial cystitis. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yeah.
She's new to grounding, but hoping that it can help, as it's a pretty pernicious disease.
Yeah, it's an inflammation-related health disorder. Sleeping ground is going to be beneficial. If it's acute, put a patches, use the patches. Put them where the pain is, and notice the difference. It only takes a few minutes.
Absolutely. Another question came in from Facebook. This is from our friend Donna. Donna's actually asking, what type of bed mattress do you believe is best? Of course, with the grounding mat on top, but she's saying, guessing not a foam and not metal box springs. So I'm not sure if you have any kind of recommendations on that front.
Well, first of all, we used to sleep on the dirt, and I grew up an outdoor cowboy, so that means you have a blanket. Sometimes you're on it in the morning, sometimes you aren't. What always amazed me is I can go out and sleep in the dirt, and I wake up, I don't have any aches and pains, and it's not totally uncomfortable. You roll around, but I can't sleep in a soft foam bed. That just too much for me. My body just won't deal with it. So I can't tell you for sure what's best, but I will tell you what I know. As far, I think myself, the metal springs it's better to have the metal springs than you're reducing the amount of foam. Foam is going to off gas until the day it turns to dust, VOCs, volatile organic chemicals. But they're going to forever be in your bedroom. They're going to, powder up, and eventually the mattress will turn in. It takes 20, 30 years to do that. But it doesn't matter. It's chronic and it's constant. You create a lot of static electricity with a foam mattress. If you have the grounding mat on, that's not a problem. The regular mattresses, if you don't have a barrier of some kind between you and the mattress, then your dead skin and all the mites and all the debris from that gets into your sleeping air in your environment. So having something that's kind of a barrier, I think, is a good idea. The springs are better because a lot of people say, well, because the EMF people will go out and say, oh my God, you can't do that because, they're an antenna and they attract electric fields. Well, your body is more of an antenna attracting electric fields than the springs are. So get your mind on your body. If you want to, but you do have to pay attention. I mean, but if you have a grounded cover on top of it, then that mitigates a lot of this from below also. But the springs they're just more environmentally friendly. They're more supportive. This is all I know. I have an old spring mattress. It's hard as a rock. And that's because I just sleep on a hard mattress. A lot of people can't do that. But on the other hand, I can't sleep on a soft mattress. So it's what your body gets used to. But as long as I'm grounded, I can sleep on anything.
Absolutely. So
I can't tell you which. We are working with a company called Diamond Mattress in LA, and they actually, compress them, ship them to people and stuff. And we are talking about putting out a grounded version that has a grounded cover on it with a 4-inch waterfall on each end. And but it's a solid material, so it breathes through the sides rather than through up and down, which is important because when you buy a new mattress, you're breathing that that off-gassing, and they put perfumes in it that mask it so you don't think you're smelling it, but your body is. It's crazy. It's pretty crazy business. Just use your own good judgment. Cover your mattress with something if you can to prevent the debris and all that kind of stuff. And then static. I mean, it's a double-edged sword all the way. You know, it's VOCs versus metals, and there's no VOCs, so you're reducing that. I think that's really important. The static electricity, I think eliminating that as much as you can is extremely important. With grounding, it's not a problem. But I can't say this is best. It's what you put a grounded mattress cover on it and then lay on it. And if you sleep great, that's all that counts.
Absolutely. All right, I think we do have time for one more question here. For our last question, we'll go ahead and take that from our friend Pat here on Zoom. Pat is asking, so she says she bought cotton sheets to put over the mat on her mattress, but when she checks to see if it's grounding her while she's sleeping on the cotton sheet, the light for the tester actually does not come on. I was wondering if we have a brand of sheets that works best on top of the mat, or I know we do have a few suggestions for more accurate testing with the sheet over that as well.
First of all, if you put the black mat on your mattress and you put a normal cotton sheet over it, cotton holds moisture. First thing cotton's going to do, it's going to equalize with the humidity in the environment. So whatever the humidity is, it's going to have that amount of humidity. Other sheets won't do that. And then you're going to be perspiring. So your body, so the cotton sheet is going to absorb, you know, a cup of water that you perspire every night is going to be absorbed by your sheet. And the electrons on the mat, the earth electrons, they are there, and they are, as long as they have this cotton and this moisture, they have a path to your skin. Now, if you have a lot of clothing on, night clothing, pajamas, if they're not cotton, it could be a little more problematic. But generally speaking, if you're laying on the sheet, you're grounded. Those electrons are going to migrate into your body, and you are grounded, and you're going to breathe easier, sleep easier, all those kind of things. If you want to play a little bit, you can sleep directly on the mat, especially if you have any health issues going on, even if it's something just for a few days. Sleep on the mat, and it's life-changing for you. It's a little quicker. But the testers are not designed necessarily to test your body when you're grounded, because everybody has a different level of hydration. A lot of the skin on your body is dead, and it's an insulator, and you can have up to 5 megs of resistance here. And so it's like when they do an EKG or anything, they have to put those electrode patches to break through the dead skin in order to be able to pick up the frequencies and so on. So anyhow, we're going to solve this problem. But right now, the best we have is you have a ground mat that's 100% ground. It's bulletproof. It's going to work no matter what. It can't be oxidized the way it can. The silver, you're not going to have the effects of the loss of the silver, all that kind of stuff. The cotton sheets do work. We do have a tester that does measure that, but that's, it's just measuring a little more mags of resistance. But the testers are designed to test the cords and to put it directly on the black mat and to test that the black mat is grounded. And you really don't need that, but with the black mat, because we know it's grounded. But you need it because you need to know that, it is grounded, and you've got visual proof. But the only thing you can do is sleep back and forth directly on the mat versus sleeping on your pillow, or on your sheet. I do both all the time, and I get tired of, everybody's different. And what we're interested in is trying to restore your natural biological state, to be in contact with the earth, to be close coupled with the earth, meaning the electric the frequencies of the earth. When you are close to them, then your body resonates with them. Boom, boom, rather than this 60 hertz stuff and all that. So it's going to calm your nervous system no matter what. The electrons are going to migrate into your body. They're going to reduce charge in your body. You've got to keep what's causing a lot of the stress down. I don't know how far to go with this, but I want everybody to be perfectly grounded, and I want everybody to know they're perfectly grounded. And I guarantee I'm going to get there before too long. The black mat will never change. It is the foundation for earthing into the future. Go ahead.
Quick tip for just testing through the sheets. I know just a small drop of water to replicate hydration from our perspiration, or testing first thing in the morning when you wake up can definitely help to give them more accurate results.
Yeah, or test it after you've been in bed for a half hour.
Exactly. All right.
And I tested instantly. I lay down no matter what I've got on my sheets. I'm grounded.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm different. And a lot of other people that way. Now you got to remember, we have tens of thousands. All these people that are grounded. There's just a handful of people that are more affected. I mean, and it's because it may be because their skin, because their body's not hydrated sufficient, or they don't have enough mineral in the body. There's all these other things. That's why we can't guarantee measuring the body via the sheet to the mat.
Factors at play there, absolutely.
But I'm well hydrated and I'm grounded just by putting my hand on the sheet.
All right. I think that was the last question we will be getting to today. I know we did have a few questions we were unable to get to, so I do want to apologize for that. If you do show up early, we do tend to go first come, first serve with the questions, so we'll have a better likelihood of getting around to that and being able to ask Clint. But with closing things out, I did want to say, Clint, thank you so much for joining us again. Thank you to all of you for joining us and submitting your questions, helping to educate yourselves better about earthing. If you haven't done so already, we do highly recommend following us on social media and subscribing to our email newsletter and YouTube channel, so you're in the loop regarding our upcoming webinars, sales, new product information, and much, much more. With that, I just wanted to say one more thank you to Clint. Thank you all again, and hope you have a great day.
Thank you. Have a good one. See you next week. Take care.